Zegler.
All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to kind of explore what happens when personal opinions collide with the world of online expression, especially when it comes to politics, you
Right.
know? Have you ever felt so strongly about something that you said something online that you later regretted?
Oh, all the time.
Well, that's exactly what happened with actress Rachel Zegler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she posted on Instagram after the election, and her words really stirred the pot.
Interesting. So tell me more about this post. What did she say?
So she posted on Instagram after the recent election,
Okay.
and let's just say her words really stirred the pot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, she was clearly upset about the results,
Mm-hmm.
but her post went beyond, just expressing disappointment. Like one line in particular, she wished that Trump, his supporters and voters never know peace.
Oh, I see. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, and it sparked a huge backlash online.
Yeah, I can imagine. It really highlights how quickly things can escalate online,
Yeah.
especially when emotions are running high.
Yeah.
Like you say something in the heat of the moment, and then suddenly it's everywhere. And it's like, whoa, how did that happen?
Right, exactly. And it's interesting because in that same post, she also encouraged her followers to leave X, the social media platform owned by Elon Musk. So she clearly, wanted to make a statement, but the internet, as they say, never forgets.
That's so true.
And this brings up a crucial point about our digital footprint. Every post, every comment, it all contributes to this permanent record of our online activity.
Right, yeah.
So even with an apology like the one Ziegler issued, that initial sentiment, it's still out there. Anyone can find it.
Exactly. I mean, think about it this way. Even if you delete something, it doesn't really disappear,
Yeah.
right? Screenshots, archives, you name it, it's out there.
Yeah.
And that's a key takeaway for you here. Think about how your digital footprint could be perceived, not just today, but years down the line. It might be worth, revisiting your privacy settings, really thinking about the potential long-term impact of your words before posting. Is this something that could come back to haunt me later? It's something to really consider.
It's such great advice because, like you were saying, deleting something doesn't mean it truly disappears.
Yeah.
Especially with the way information is shared and archived these days. And, this wasn't just a one-off for Zegler. She's been pretty vocal about her political views in the past as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she actively encouraged people to vote for Kamala Harris during the campaign.
Interesting.
And earlier this year, she added Free Palestine to a post promoting Snow White.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Which some interpreted as a, subtle critique of her Israeli co-star, Gal Gadot.
Oh, okay, I see.
So it's almost like, this latest incident is part of a bigger pattern of her expressing, potentially controversial opinions online.
Right.
And it just makes me wonder, if you're a public figure like Zegler, is there ever really a way to separate your personal views from your professional life in this hyper-connected world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something we'll be exploring more deeply as we kind of dive further into this whole topic.
Yeah, I think it's a really important question to consider, especially in today's world. So it seems like Zegler's situation is a really good example of how tricky it can be to navigate expressing your opinions online, especially when it comes to something as divisive as politics.
Yeah, it definitely raises a lot of questions, interesting ones.
Yeah.
We're all trying to walk this tightrope between having the right to free speech and, being aware of the potential consequences of what we say online.
Right, and it feels like those consequences are amplified for someone like Zegler who's constantly in the public eye.
Absolutely. Yeah, for public figures, their online presence is almost like an extension of their professional brand. So when they express strong opinions, it can impact the projects they're involved in, even the companies they work with.
Right, right.
It's a whole other layer of complexity to think about.
It really is. It makes you wonder, is it even possible for public figures to truly separate their personal beliefs from their public image in this day and age?
It's a tough one, But I think what's even more relevant for you, the listener, is how this all plays into the bigger picture of online discourse and the increasing polarization we see, especially around politics. Social media has really become a breeding ground for these intense emotions and divisive rhetoric.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that myself. It often feels like people are just talking past each other instead of actually having a meaningful conversation.
Yeah, and that's a really important observation. And it's partly because of the way these platforms are designed. These algorithms are built to keep you engaged. And one way they do that is by feeding you more of what you already agree with.
Huh. Interesting.
So it creates these echo chambers where you're constantly surrounded by information that confirms your existing beliefs, even if those beliefs aren't necessarily representative of the wider world.
So instead of encouraging us to consider different perspectives, social media can actually make us more entrenched in our own views. That's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is a bit unsettling, yeah. And, this dynamic can be especially problematic when you're dealing with something as emotionally charged as politics.
Right.
People are passionate about their beliefs, and online platforms often provide a space for those passions to, boil over.
Yeah.
And this can lead to situations where people say things they might not say in person.
Right.
Things they might even regret later.
Yeah, it's like the anonymity of the internet sometimes gives people a sense of freedom to say whatever they want without considering the real-world impact of their words. But as we've seen with Zegler, even an apology doesn't always erase the initial offense.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the heart of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
How do we navigate this tension between wanting to express ourselves authentically online and recognizing the responsibility that comes with having a voice in these digital spaces? Especially when the topics are, as potentially explosive as politics.
Yeah, it's almost like we've been handed these megaphones in the form of social media, but we haven't quite figured out the proper etiquette for using them.
It's a great analogy.
Like we're still learning how to have these important and often difficult conversations, in a way that's both honest and respectful.
Right. Yeah, because with that amplified reach comes greater responsibility.
Right.
Our words have the power to do so much good, inspire, connect, to build understanding, but they also have the potential to inflict real harm, to spread misinformation, and to deepen divides.
I've been thinking about something you said earlier about echo chambers and how they can make us more entrenched in our own views. And it made me wonder, what can we do to break out of those echo chambers and engage with different perspectives, even if they make us uncomfortable?
That's such a crucial question. And I think, one we all need to be asking ourselves. And I think the first step is recognizing that it's okay to be uncomfortable. Growth rarely happens within our comfort zones.
Yeah.
So instead of shutting down when we encounter viewpoints that challenge our own, what if we approach those conversations with curiosity?
That's a great point, yeah. It's about shifting our mindset from one of defensiveness to one of openness.
Exactly. And remember, listening doesn't mean agreeing.
Right.
You can hear someone's perspective, try to understand where they're coming from without necessarily changing your own views.
Right.
In fact, sometimes that friction, that tension between different ideas is where real learning and growth could occur.
So how do we do that in a practical sense? How can we actually cultivate this kind of open and constructive dialogue online, especially when it comes to something as charged as politics?
Well, one concrete step you can take is to diversify your online feeds. Make a conscious effort to follow people and organizations that represent a range of perspectives, even those you might not initially agree with.
So it's like intentionally exposing yourself to different ways of thinking, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable at first.
Exactly. Another tip is to be mindful of your own emotional state before engaging in potentially heated discussions online. If you're feeling angry or frustrated, it might be best to take a step back and come back to the conversation when you're feeling, calmer and more collected.
Because let's face it, sometimes things can escalate quickly online, and it's easy to say things in the heat of the moment that you later regret.
Absolutely. And remember, online conversations are still conversations.
Yeah.
So treat the people on the other side of the screen with the same respect and consideration you would offer them in person. Even if you disagree with their views, try to focus on understanding their perspective rather than just trying to win an argument.
It's about remembering that there's a real person behind every profile picture and every comment.
Precisely. And that brings us to a final thought for you to consider. How can you use your online voice to contribute to a more positive and productive digital world? How can you be both authentic to yourself and responsible in your interactions with others, even when you strongly disagree?
That's a powerful question, and one that I think we all need to grapple with. It's about finding that balance between expressing ourselves freely and doing so in a way that fosters genuine understanding and connection. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the complexities of online expression. We hope it's given you some food for thought as you navigate this ever-evolving digital landscape. Until next time, keep thinking critically and keep those conversations going.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. up.